But what I don't get to hear, and I feel like sometimes the men are silenced in this because men are supposed to be way more macho, whatever. I don't know what culture is trying to say now, but actually I do know what they're trying to say. But like men, like you have a voice as well. You're having an ache and a journey with romance that is not panning out the way that you thought it would. You are
Correct.
doing your work. However, like how have you maintained, and you just came out of like a really hard breakup, it sounds like, within the last year. What do you want us to know? I don't know, as women, the journey of like a single man.
Patrice's playlist, well, it's good listening.
Hi, and welcome to Patrice's Playlist. I'm your host, Patrice, and I'm so glad that you're with me today. You are in for a treat with this conversation I have with my friend D.David Morin, who I call DDM. You're going to find out how he got that nickname, and he may sound or look familiar if you're watching this podcast episode on YouTube or on Spotify. He might look familiar from television or from commercials or maybe from an old school Christian movie from the early 2000s called Timechanger. Or maybe even a Netflix teen comedy called Kissing Booth. When I saw that a couple years back, I was like, wait a minute, I know that principal. It was DDM. In this conversation, you're going to get to know his story, his journey. We both met while we were going to the same church, and we later served on a team, a missions team going to Kenya, and that was incredible. DDM is originally from California, but now, fast forward to 2025, he's been living in South Africa for over 12 years. He shares a little bit of that journey as well. He's also 70 years young. He's a man of faith, loves God, single, never married, and no kids. And we start to talk about longing and hope. And I find these conversations so interesting, especially with my creatives, with my creative people. And he is a creative through and through. He is an actor, a writer, a director, all the things, full of energy. And this is such an important conversation to have. And I pray that if you are in that space of either transition or longing, or maybe even feeling a bit of hopelessness, I just want you to know, like, you have space to feel all those things here. And I believe the Lord wants to meet you in the midst of this conversation. So I pray that you are blessed. I will meet you on the other side of this conversation to share with you one of the takeaways that stuck with me in this conversation. We're going to go right into it and right into the journey and of his origin story. And then we're going to start getting into some of the meat and potatoes that, man, I just love in these conversations. So what a gift DDM is, and I can't wait to meet you on the other side of the conversation. Enjoy.
So I just got back to Italy, of course, as one does. I went for 2 months over November and December. I went to language school in Florence.
Oh my gosh,
Uh,
Firenze.
I had a bad love relationship last year, and I got real sour on Cape Town and just sour on
Aw.
life. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm watching all these YouTubers that are buying old stone houses and renovating, and I'm like, that's what I want
Wild.
to do. I want a project. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna start over. Like, screw her, screw this, screw life. I'm out. I'm starting over.
Yeah.
So so that's what I did. And I got cured of Italy actually after after 2 months
How does
because
that happen?
it was
What?
winter and it was cold,
Mm,
and if you're gonna do like a big house renovation out in the country, you need a lot of money. Like
yeah.
you need like half a
A lot.
million euro or couple mil,
Yeah.
and you need a partner. And it's like I had
It's
none of the
helpful.
above. So
Yeah.
anyways, I got back. And I went, because like a year ago I had started this Hemingway show.
Okay.
And the reason is like I just wanted to act. I just wanted to do something, Like
Yeah.
when you're a TV film actor, you just sit around and I've been
Yeah.
here what 12 years now in Cape Town and done a
12
day player.
years.
Yeah, and I've done like a day player here, a day player there, and like I'm a filmmaker. I've made my own content. I made a
Yeah.
high school comedy. I've done documentaries. Blah 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 blah. It was just like, you know what? It's like I gotta do something, man. I'm gonna get on the boards. I'm gonna get back on the boards. Like I never was
Yeah.
a theater. My mom was a theater person, so I'm kind of
Okay.
following in her footsteps finally. And I started this Hemingway show, and it was just like, you know what, this guy is unredeemable. Like, there's not, I can't do the show. And
Okay.
then a year later, I figured out how to get into the show. There's an old Hemingway joke.
Mm.
Uh, why did the chicken cross the road by Ernest Hemingway? Why did the chicken cross the road? To
Uh,
die alone in the
oh,
rain.
oh gosh.
So that's the Hemingway joke. So I was
Okay.
like going, you know what? That's it. I go, that's my way into the show. Like, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to talk about all the books I've written, but here's one that was never published. And I say the
Yes.
title, and then I say a thing, and then I go, of
Yes.
course, and that's a lie. Not that she didn't cross the road to die alone in the rain. That's what happens to most chickens. But the fact that I wrote that, that's the lie because I didn't write that. But people that know me and know I was an alcoholic and that I committed suicide think that I'm a downer, that I'm depressing. And so
Yeah.
they think I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with death. And then I get into this whole thing about, his relationship with death and dying and committing
Wow.
suicide and alcoholism and the
Yeah.
way he was raised. And like, so, so I finished, so I finally it took me a couple of months to write it. And it's about like, the first time I put it up was about 80 minutes. It was to
Wow.
these three African couples, friends of mine, and
Yeah.
here, and they're hardcore believers, like hardcore.
Wow.
And I called actually the next week. There was three couples, and so one of the men called me the next week and said, I said, "Hi, David." I go, "Hey." He goes, "Yeah, I just had my quiet time, and I felt like the Lord wanted me to call you. I just can't tell you how disturbing I found your show, and I don't think Jesus was clapping.
Oh, dang.
Why are you bothering glorifying this man's life? It has
Oh.
no like kingdom value.
Mm-hmm.
Blah 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 blah." It was a voice message,
Oh, even better. You can keep it forever.
and
Yeah.
and and I listened to it, and it was like, it was kind of cool because I had already quit the show because like you're not telling me anything new. So like
Yeah.
I pinged him back and left a voice message. I go, hey buddy, thanks for the feedback. I'm not offended.
Yeah.
Believe me, like this is a hard show.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sorry you didn't think Jesus was clapping. I don't think Jesus was clapping when David sent Uriah the Hittite to the front line so he could be with his wife.
Oh my gosh, David.
And I
Yeah.
don't know really, I know that Ernest probably wasn't redeemable, but if I'm not saved, I'm sure I'm not redeemable. I don't know any of us
Yeah. Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Hitler, do we not tell his story? Well, it's a story, and Hemingway,
Mm.
it's a story. And so at the end of the day,
Mm.
he gave me a different bow on the end of it. So
Okay.
like I'm this close to proselytizing at the end of the show now.
Oh,
Like I
really?
walked the line because a couple of his quotes were all thinking men are atheists, and
Mm.
happiness in rich people is the rarest thing I know. And then
Mm.
I added um, but it's the believers who have hope, which it turns out to be an essential ingredient in life. And then he
Mm.
says, my mom was a church person, and
Whoa.
which she
Wow.
was also four out of, there were six Hemingways in his family. Four out of the six kids took their own lives. It was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
yeah, yeah, like crazy gnarly, yeah. So it's a
Whoa.
hectic show. Like you find out so much about this man. But anyways, he goes. So at the end, he's like, kind of, I'm the ghost of Hemingway. He's looking at his life. He even says, "Why are we telling my story? I'm an empty jacket." And you know what? Uh, at the end, we are the sum of our choices. You reap whatever you sow. My mom was a church person. I always tuned her out, but she was always spouting verses. And the one that always bothered me was, "What is it profit a man if he gains the whole world but forfeits his soul?" But
Mm.
We do reap, we reap whatever we sow. And if you sow to please the flesh, you're going to reap destruction. And if you sow to please the
Mm,
spirit, you're going to reap eternal life. Beat, 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 like he missed the boat. And then he says, okay, I gotta go. Let's wrap this up. So it's like, instead of like
wow.
doing the sell job, he's like,
Yeah.
okay, I missed that boat because I was busy feeding my flesh and I never fed my
Wow.
spirit. And okay, let's wrap this up. So everybody's just like, oh my gosh.
Wow. Okay, but first of all, like I have two questions now that you tell that story because I don't think
Okay.
I know this about you. And the last time I feel like I saw you was like, I don't know, 30 years ago back in Kenya,
Yeah.
Africa, when we were on a short-term
Right.
missions. That's
Right.
when I feel like the last time I really saw your face. So, first of all,
Yeah.
everyone that's listening or watching this, this is our reunion. I have not talked to or seen DDM in probably 30 years. Okay.
Correct.
I don't think I knew how you came to faith. Like, how did you come to faith? And I remember kind of in the ether somewhere knowing that you were in like a Christian film, and some people might recognize your face that are watching this particular
Sure.
podcast or
Okay.
recognize
Yeah.
your voice.
Yeah.
But how did you come to faith? And then we're going to circle back to this Hemingway thing because I got questions.
Okay. So my dad was forced to go to Lutheran Sunday school for 17 years, never missed. Hated God, hated Sunday school, hated his mom. My mom's mom ran away with someone else. She never really was a church person. My sister Heidi, who was 2 years older than me, she went to Forest Home in San Bernardino Mountains through Hollywood Presbyterian Church and got saved in junior high. And then like 2 summers later, I went to Forest Home and I got saved through Hollywood Press at Forest Home.
Wow.
And then was kind of a good Christian kid through Hollywood High. And Rita Wilson, who I took to my senior prom, who's Tom
Okay,
Hanks's wife. Well,
pause, slow down.
she was a
Slow.
believer. Like
Wait,
we had a really great group.
okay, slow down. But you you just said in passing you went to Hollywood High. I feel like I didn't know this about you as well. We're gonna go on
Yeah.
a lot of bunny trails. How was it going to Hollywood High? I don't know what year this was, if you want to share with
Yeah, so I
us.
graduated in 72. You know, it was like, when I went to grammar school, the girl I had a crush on, her dad was the husband in Bewitched. So it was just sort of normal that you were just around industry. I
Okay,
had a crush on Mandy York, and her dad was Dick York, and he played Darren, whatever, on Bewitched. You know what I mean? So I didn't really, people say, well, gee, was Hollywood High weird? It's like, well, it's not weird if you're in the bowl, if you're in the
sure,
fishbowl, it looks the
sure,
same.
sure.
So, and it's a big school. Like I'm always shocked because like there was 1,100 kids in my senior class. Maybe that's not huge, but it's
That
pretty big.
is. Yes.
And so there was like over 3,000 kids in the high school. I mean, there was much bigger kids, obviously, in LA school district, but it was and so it was just like for me, it was just a regular school.
Okay, so you came to faith like basically during high school?
Yeah, I came to faith in junior high. Yeah,
Okay, in
and then
junior
all
high.
through high school, I was involved with Hollywood Press and their youth department and everything at Hollywood Press.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's this sounds so crude, but like your faith stuck. It stuck. Because there's so many folks that I feel like and when they come to know the Lord, maybe in their younger years, there is like a period of time where they're either in the dark night of the soul, they're questioning, they've walked away completely from the faith, church has become too whatever, all the things that people a lot of, are experiencing a lot of church hurt. How like how have you been able to kind of hold on to faith and what did that look like for you?
I also walked away.
Mhm.
So after college, I was a really good Boy Scout in college. I was members of the Navigator Christian
What's
organization, which is
what's
like
that?
Campus Crusade,
Oh, okay. Wow.
based out of Colorado Springs.
Uh,
Navigators,
okay.
scripture memory, Bible study, sir, yes, sir. Did all the right things. Um, and then I finished. That was in Boulder. And then I
Okay.
finished Boulder and the Navigators, and I got accepted into law school in San Diego.
Wow.
And so that was in 1976. And this sounds really harsh, but it was just like, okay, Lord, I want to go party and be with women, and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
See you on the flip
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
So it was like 17 years later or something.
What?
Yeah. So that was 1996, and then no, sorry, that was 1976. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was at Vineyard in 1996.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like a 20-year backslide.
What brought you back? Like,
Well, I was I was doing a movie. Okay, so now we're back to my big Christian film.
yeah.
This is so funny because I thought, okay, I'm on my way. God's finally going to make me a movie star. I did a Christian film called Timechanger
Yes, we
by
know that. Yes.
Rich Cristiano, and it
Yes.
was and was it TBN? I think it was TBN. PJ was the son of the couple that ran the church. What was his last name? I should have. Anyways, PJ Green let me to play the lead. I had read
Mm,
the script, and they wanted me to play like a detective in the future, and I was
okay.
like, no, I think I'm the lead guy. Like, I'm sorry, like
You
I'm
said I'm the lead.
Carlisle.
You said I'm main
Well,
character
I mean,
energy.
I
I
know
am main character
exactly.
energy. Let me just tell you. This is DDM, everybody. He's like, let me just tell you what you didn't know. I
I
am.
know I know it sounds so cliche.
I'm gonna
It's
start using
terrible.
that. That's
It
great.
sounds so cliche and terrible, and I know it does, but it was the truth. I just went, you know what? Like I I'm not this hokey detective in the future. Like, I'm the lead. Like
Uh,
this is and then Rich was like, "Well, I've never really heard of you before." And I had a number of Hollywood credits by then, but I wasn't really I had done a couple Billy Graham things.
okay.
So PJ, it's so weird. I had actually worked with PJ as a grip pulling cable covering
I
auto
love
race,
it. Yes.
like 10 years before. And now all of a sudden PJ's funding the million
Wow.
dollar budget or whatever it was to
Sure.
do Time Changer because we shot
Yep.
it on 35, and
Wow.
it was a big production. And I think Rich went to PJ. I think I had just read for him, and PJ, like, I think it went this way, Patrice. PJ's like, he's like, I think D.David is good for the lead in this. And Rich
Mm.
was like, you mean D.David Morin, the guy I just met? He's like, yeah, I've been thinking about it. I think he'd be really good for this. And it was just like, okay, it ain't bragging if it's true.
Mm. Oh my God.
So, so,
Just get
so
get people on
anyways,
your team to
I
back you up,
wasn't
everybody.
I
Yes.
wasn't wrong, everybody. I was,
Yeah.
my senses were
Okay.
correct.
That's fair.
Um, and then yeah, and so the script super on
Mm.
Time Changer was this lovely lady who went to Malibu Vineyard.
Okay.
And her husband was a voiceover guy and an actor named Ross McCarris. Her name was Ellen Grigg. And so I'm working with Ellen every day, and she's
Uh-huh.
super classy, a little scarf, and
Yeah.
she's got like her readers and her hair in a little clip, like just
We love it.
totally pro style,
We love it.
totally class. Yeah, just
Yes.
absolutely class on her job. And at the end, she's like, hey, why don't you come out and go to our church? And actually maybe I was the one asking her because she was so I just found her, like light and salt, like she was intriguing. I'm like, I go, where do
Mm-hmm.
you go to church? She's like, oh, we go to Malibu Vineyard. I go,
Mm-hmm.
where's that? Oh, we meet at Webster Elementary School.
I
I go,
remember those
where's
days.
that? Oh, it's out in
Yeah.
Malibu. I'm like, okay, so then check this. So I'm dating this girl, and we're close to being engaged if we're not already. We go out to Malibu Vineyard for the very first time
Mm.
at Webster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a suit with no tie because, like, I think it's Bel Air Press. Everybody else is in slaps and shorts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I walk in the back of the building. That was when the band was still on the floor. It wasn't even on the stage.
Yeah.
I walk in the back of the building, and nobody knows this except sweet Jesus that a pedal steel guitar is my favorite instrument,
Oh.
like in a cowboy band,
Oh
like
yeah, we
you
know
know.
here. We know what that is.
So
Yes.
anyway, I'm just like, is that a pedal steel in the what? The
Yeah,
worship
let's
band
go.
is it? No. And then Dave stands up,
Yeah.
Mr. Intercontinental, linen
Yeah.
shirt and
Yeah.
pants, and that South African accent, blah blah blah.
Yes.
Just like going, oh wow, like is this place anointed, like or what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, so then it was like game over or game on,
Mm.
so that's what brought me back.
Wow.
And
What
then
was
Dave
her name?
spoke, and then Dave spoke. He just spoke so much faith into me, like every week, like
Hmm.
into all of us. And we were just like such a crazy group of misfits out there. It was just awesome. And
That's a
we
good
we were
term.
there. We were there in the morning. We were there in the evening. We folded all the chairs. I mean,
Yeah.
you know. And then I remember one day my sister, who was with the Navigators, a missionary in Germany,
Wow.
Heidi came, and after the service, because Dave was like pretty intense,
Yes.
and Heidi she was a lovely believer, and she said, she goes, David, look out for that guy. He's a heavy. And I'm like, oh, Pshaw, he's anointed. He's,
Hmm.
our fearless leader. And then, of course, Dave was a mixed bag.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
wasn't wrong.
Yeah. So tell me the name of her. Was it Heidi or who brought you from the set to Malibu
Oh, that
Vineyard?
was Ellen Gray.
Ellen. Ellen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen. Okay, so you were in, I mean, is this the tea, like the real tea that you were in Time Changers and you weren't yet back in faith until, or was the Lord kind of already
Yeah,
working
no,
on your heart?
totally. Yeah, no, that was totally it. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I still I could still recite like 100 verses. I mean, it wasn't like, you know what I mean? It's like the hound of
Yeah.
heaven, like the Holy Spirit lets you go, but you're still on the leash.
Yeah.
It's not like you're brainwashed. It's like, okay, I
Yeah.
know what I'm doing is wrong, but I
Yeah.
still feel like doing it.
Wow. And also hearing some of the time changer behind the scenes of that being like you weren't the lead to begin with, which is kind of funny to me. Like that you were
Right.
just like,
Yeah.
again, I'm feeling like I'm main character here. And I just feel like there's a wisdom nugget for somebody who's listening right now that just needs to bring that main character energy to their own life
Oh
and
gosh,
and be-
I would say opposite.
and believe in that. No, no,
Do not channel DDM. That is like
no,
too
no. I just mean
atrocious.
like in honestly, because I'm thinking about my own life too in this season, just like trusting God and just saying like He's given me what I need for this day, like and it can be like whether it's a role, whether it's this job, or whether it's a promotion, or whether this
Okay,
thing.
here's one of my pet peeves
Mm,
about Hollywood and believers, because
mm,
I had a Bible study at my house in the Hollywood Hills,
yeah,
and I know I can't tell you, and you saw every Tom, Dick, and Harry
yeah,
come walk through the vineyard, and like everybody's
100%.
from like Iowa or God bless you, wherever you're from. They're like, no, the Lord called me to come to Malibu. The Lord wants me to save the
Mhm.
industry, and the Lord, and so those are the types like me that's like, no, I'm supposed to be the lead because God's called me here on a mission, and I'm going to save the world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
No,
and I
temper that with
didn't feel
wisdom.
that way. I just
Yeah.
felt passionately about the script.
Hmm.
Here's an interesting button on that.
Yeah.
So Time Changer, it had its run,
Yeah.
and I I had mixed feelings about the film.
Hmm.
Rich was really a passionate. Rich was an evangelist in a filmmaker's body. So, you
Yeah.
know, as much as I felt like the film was, it might not have been like my cup of tea, but I really in the behind the scenes, like, in the featurette, I talk about trying to make Carlisle comedic, but in a heartfelt sense. Like he was my character was so judgmental
Mm,
that if you didn't find him amusing, you wouldn't have stayed on board.
mm,
So I was looking for all of those moments to really make so you could giggle, at
hmm.
his expense as he finally sort of came around and smelled the roses. But anyway, Rich and I got along great. Rich had done a few other things. So now cut to 2025, and
Hmm.
Rich is like, "Hey, DDM, Timechanger is in the prisons, and all of these cellmates have like iPads, and we're streaming like 250,000 views of Timechanger. And will
What?
you do a come to Jesus
What?
altar call on your phone that we can edit
What?
onto the end of the film?" I'm like, "Oh my hat, that would be unreal."
That's wild. And also, like, I mean, kudos to you for doing that film, especially as an actor, because I think that might be a tough decision because for me during that time of Christian films, it was like the ultimate corny, cheesy,
$100.
the indicative of like this is why we don't like Christian films.
Right. Right. No, no, 100%. Preaching to the choir. Usually the production values suck. Usually the
Ugh.
script is weak. It's a lot of bad actors, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. So
Ugh.
it's just sort of like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Until, it's like it's TBN, it's
Hmm.
$1 million. You're shooting on 35. You've got Philip Hearn as the DOP. And we had about four or five ringers in there. um Guy Paul Rodriguez, that comedian, everybody flew in
Yeah.
today. We paid
Yeah.
him, I think Rich paid everybody $10,000 for a day.
Wow.
We shot out Hal Linden. We shot out the girl from Summer of 42, Jennifer O'Neill.
Mm.
Anyway, so we had a few ringers. Oh, and then I was opposite Gavin McLeod from Love Boat.
Yes. I
So
love
and so
Kevin. Love
and
it.
so, anyways, if anybody was worried that I was going to get a big head for being in the lead,
Yeah.
all you had to do was wait till it was time for the film to be released. And everybody's like going, Gavin's on the one sheet and on the DVD box because nobody's ever heard of DDM.
I
Like, but
know.
I'm the lead. It's like, yeah, but you're not
Yeah.
a name.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't get really too big a head out of all of that, I can promise you.
But how
But it was
sweet.
really cool. It was really cool when Rich just called and said, "Hey, will you do like a little more,
Yeah.
like we can tag on to this." And it was just, yeah, it was really awesome. Like to have like that platform, and someone's just watched you for 90 minutes, and now all of a sudden it's modern day actor, and
Yeah.
obviously it's 30, 40 years later.
That's awesome.
I'm just like, hey,
Hey.
everybody, again, it's the same kind of thing, hey guys, we are the sum of our choices, and you know,
Whoa. Look at that.
what
Look at
are we
that theme.
doing?
Look at that theme
Yeah,
coming
well,
back for
it's
you.
like, yeah, it's like, what are we doing? Yeah,
What are we
yeah.
doing? Yeah, we're gonna make our way back to the Hemingway story as well. But I feel like we missed something from you going to law school to becoming an
Hmm.
actor. What,
Hmm.
how, because this, there are a lot of conversations I'm having in this season where people, especially post COVID, the pandemic, myself included, where I had to shift careers or industries for a season or a bit. And I'm just curious, like, what did that look like for you? Like going from lawyer or law school to acting?
Okay, so
Was
there's a
it a
little bit,
perfect,
there's just
smooth transition? Smooth
yeah, and
transition?
well, there's a bit of a backstory, which actually was a pretty big chapter in my life. So I'm in Boulder, Colorado. I'm with the Navigators, and one of the heads of sort of like the Nav ministry is a vice president at an industrial urethane company, and they make urethane padding to absorb vibrations from machines,
Okay.
like about as boring as you can get,
It
right?
sounded fascinating to me, but okay, go ahead.
So
Yes.
here's a slab of urethane, and it's just going to make that machine not vibrate. It's just going to
Sure.
absorb. Okay.
Sure.
So there's a kid in the shipping department, Jimmy Ford, and at that point, skateboard wheels were being revolutionized and made out of urethane.
Oh,
And urethane you can make to be either dead or resilient. So you can drop a urethane skateboard wheel and it can bounce back into your hand because it's
what?
resilient. Because it's resilient.
Whoa.
So now Jimmy's like, hey, why don't, and the company was called Kryptonics. And Jimmy's like, hey, look, why don't we make skateboard wheels out of urethane that are fast and resilient? And we'll make them in these three different durometers. So long story short, that was like, so I was a test rider for
Whoa.
Kryptonic. Then I applied to 13 law schools. I got into one, which was San Diego, Cal Western. So now I go to California that summer, and I'm their only salesman, their first salesman to go to California. So now I'm making like 5% on every wheel that's sent to California. So I'm going to Infinity surfboards and Val Surf and
Whoa.
Surf. I mean, I'm just basically hitting like every little surf shop
Yeah.
going, hey, you want to try our wheels? You know,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I end up in San Diego and I'm living in this little, I'm living off of Mission Beach Boulevard in Mission
Yeah.
Beach.
Yeah.
And there's a liquor store. I'm living above this liquor store. I go down and behind the counter at the liquor store, there's some skateboarder magazine covers. And there's this one kid from Lucadia, Greg Weaver, who was like the quintessential poster child of skateboarding with Cadillac wheels and urethane wheels. And he was like in every other cover. And he was good friends with Warren Bolster, who was the photo editor at Skateboarder. So like I'm kind of going, I'm sorry, why do you have all these skateboarder covers up here? And there's a guy behind the counter who kind of looked like Sam Neill, had like, the mustache and deep
Yeah.
voice. And he's like, oh, that's my stepson. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, that's Greg. He's my stepson. He lives with me in Lucadia. I'm like going, Greg Weaver lives in your house in Lucadia. He's like, yeah. I go,
Wow.
listen, if I give you a box of wheels and some stickers, like, could you give them to Greg? He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, sure. So, anyways, through the favor of the Lord, all of a sudden Kryptonics is like on every cover of Skateboarder because
Whoa.
I'm getting hooked up with all the top skaters that the magazine loves.
Yep.
Now there's all these distributors that pop up throughout California,
Okay.
and they're buying wheels and shipping wheels all over the United States and all over the world, and I'm making 5%. My first year in law school in 1976,
Mm.
I made $64,000 off of skateboard wheel commissions while I'm a full-time law student. So I bought a sailboat, I bought a Porsche, and I flunked out.
And the moral of the story, kids.
And then I had to petition to get back in because because like I had flunked out, and they said,
Yes.
well, you're gonna have to resign as vice president of the Student Bar Association if you're gonna come back. I went,
Mm.
well, I don't really want to be here because I was too stupid to hold my office. I'll take a semester off.
Mm.
And then my dad said, well, if you go back and you don't finish, I want you to pay me for all the education. I said, no, Dad, if I go back, I'll pay for it. And
Hmm.
so I stumbled through, I took a semester off and I went back and I was the full-time Kryptonics rep. Meanwhile, I had moved in with David Carson, who ran Infinity Surfboards in South Mission Beach.
Wow.
David Dave is like he's a world-renowned graphic designer now.
Whoa.
And David, I lived with David, and then he was judging surfing, like in
Mm.
Mexico, and so I went with him to judge the surf contest, and there wasn't an MC, so I ended up emceeing the surf contest, and then I became the voice of professional surfing for 10 years, including the OP Pro at Huntington Beach and all of that.
What? I never
Yeah,
knew this about you.
yeah, and that's
Never.
so D. David came from a skater from Dogtown, Jimmy Muir, because I was corporate and I had my business cards, D. David Morin, Kryptonics Wheels, sales representative, blah blah blah. And so all the Dogtown, brats, everybody's so irreverent, like, hey, D. David,
I love
and
it.
I'm okay, I'm not gonna fight this. This
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah.
and so I just rolled with it, and then it became my moniker.
Yeah.
And so around the world, I was D. David's
Yeah.
surf announcer.
Yeah.
And
Surf
so
announcer.
and so I finished law school, and Skateboarder Magazine offers me a job, full-time job at Skateboarder Magazine.
Get out of here, DDM.
So then I go up to San Juan
What?
Capistrano. I'm
What?
editor of Skateboarder Magazine. Never had a
What?
journalism class in my life. I'm
What?
editing Skateboarder. It's a month. It's a glossy 84 page glossy monthly. Some issues I'm writing every article because like I just don't like what everybody else has done. I'm like having the time of my
Main
life.
character energy. Main character energy,
Exactly.
everybody.
Yeah. Out. Me.
We see you, DDM.
And then the magazine folded after 2 years.
Wow.
But meanwhile, we were right near Saddleback College, and I saw in the little Mission Viejo Saddleback fish wrap,
Mm.
Lifestyles magazine TV show at Saddleback College, and there's like this male and female host, and I'm like, I want to be that guy.
Whoa.
So the magazine folded. I went to Saddleback in the fall. That guy had just graduated. I waltzed in. I was like 24 or 25. I had my Juris Doctorate in my back pocket, getting my Associated Arts degree. And I hosted Lifestyles for 2 years. And that's where I learned how to be a presenter. And I learned
Yeah.
how to talk to the lens. So meanwhile, I'm getting all this valuable experience talking to camera. And then I
Yeah.
do a couple of student films as an actor, and I suck. I'm
Hmm.
like the worst actor ever. I'm like going, guy, this is hard. Um,
Yeah.
I thought I was just like, oh, I got this. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you don't. You don't have any
Yeah.
training because
Yeah.
acting's a disguised virtuosity. Like you can't tell
Yeah.
how hard it is to be natural. So after doing the couple student films, um, I said, you know what? I go, so Patrice, I was doing all of these different, like I was a skateboard salesman, I was announcing surfing, I was starting to be a grip in TV production.
Yeah.
Uh, I was at the school, I was cutting, I was shooting, I was writing, I was like one man
You're staying
studio.
busy.
I
Busy.
was saying, but so all of a sudden I do a student film and I suck, and I go, okay, I have to pick the thing I have the least amount of talent at. Full stop. That's me. So I'm gonna quit everything and I'm gonna move to Hollywood and I'm gonna study acting because that's the hardest thing in the world to be is a believable actor.
The least thing that you're good at, you wanted to go
Yeah.
for that and not your
Yeah,
strength.
because it was the hardest.
What? DDM,
Yeah.
because it was the hardest, most people are like, get me away from what is hard and let me lean into my strengths and what I feel I'm gifted at.
I was just like a pit bull.
What?
Yeah, I just had to. So anyway, so then I'd take a 6 week commercial casting workshop in Bev Hills,
Yeah. Bev
Wednesday
Hills.
nights.
Bev
Wednesday,
Hills.
and this is after I'm already like Joe presenter. Hey, everybody, it's Lifestyle Magazine.
I
Welcome. One day,
can't.
yeah, I'm
I
D.David Morin. This is Michelle Merker. And where are we, Michelle?
can't.
Taco Bell on
I
BT.
can't. DDM,
And can you
stop.
imagine we're gonna have a burrito? Let's see what it's like, da 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 da, Mr. Presenter. So like when I take this commercial workshop, I kill
Exhausted.
it. I'm crushing it. Like I
Jeez.
can talk to the camera
Yeah.
all day long,
Yeah, you
folks.
can. Yeah.
Anyways, she's casting ladies like Beverly Long. She's like, David, I'm getting you an agent. She's like,
Uh-huh.
see, I've got David Moore in here. You need to sign him. And so I started, and then I became the king of commercials in America for like 12 years. Like I
Wait,
shot a network,
how?
I shot a network national commercial every month for 12 years.
DDM, you got that commercial money. Wow.
Babe, you know what? I
Yeah.
was so famous, they used me on the breakdown services. Like we're
Wait,
looking for instead of like we're looking for Harrison Ford type, and say, look, we're looking for a D. David Morin type. I'm like,
um, what commercial? I need some names so I can look these up on YouTube. What's one commercial?
if you just go to YouTube and look up my commercial reel, just go D. David Morin commercials or whatnot. I mean, I literally
I'm gonna
like
link
Delta,
that.
a really big one I did. I'm still doing commercials here. I mean, I'm still
I
booking. I
love
just did
that.
something for Swedish Lottery. I mean, so anyways, I mean, so that's what got me into the
Yeah.
acting
Okay.
world, and then
Okay.
that got me into the acting into the bona fide acting world. So I studied acting for yeah for two well I did 2 years of Meisner, and then I did another 2 years. How long did I study acting for? Six
Meisner.
years? Yeah, I did two and two. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm just going to turn on my overhead fan, and you
Do
can tell
it.
me to
Yeah, because I also want people to know. I mean, when I met you back in I think it was the late, no, maybe it was the late nine, yeah,
yeah, late 90s.
late
Yeah.
90s, early 2000s. You have the same energy that you had when I met you in the 90s. Have you always been this full of energy and energetic? I mean, how old are you now, DDM?
I just turned 70.
You did not. Like, have you always, so whatever. Have you always, like, seriously, because when I think of your journey, thank you for sharing, number one, because it started with something that you were just like, wah, 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 with the thing that was boring is the thing that actually catapulted you into this like crazy adventure of a lifetime. but I was getting a little bit like, I need so much energy, like to be in this story because, and you're full of energy. Like, it sounds like you were like that from the giddy up, like just,
Yeah.
and you've been like that steady, like for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah.
Okay.
And like, and I was never diagnosed as like, I mean, I'm sure I'm like, I've got a healthy amount of ADHD or, all of that.
I think
But
we all
like,
do.
luckily I was never, they never put me on Ritalin. I
Yeah.
was never on meds to
Yeah.
control me or jack me up or bring me down. Like, I was
Yeah.
just like, I just was like a wound up kid.
And really creative. But nobody swooped you up in this whole, I mean, you were almost engaged. You told us at one point, maybe
Yeah, no, I was engaged.
you
Yeah.
were engaged and maybe you were many times. But this is really the heart of what I was mentioning to you prior of what I'm really fascinated with because you did this update on Facebook. I don't know, but maybe it's the first one in like a year or two or three or four
Yeah, it
or
was. It had
10.
been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got off social. I was just like,
It's healthy. It's great. Be off. I
yeah, I
support
just
that.
didn't, what? This goes deep because like my dad, I would call my dad and say, hey, I just booked a Matlock, or I would say, hey, I booked a commercial campaign that paid $450,000 for 1 year for
Come
Midas
on.
Muffler.
Come on.
You know what I mean? And so my dad would go, that's great. What else do you have to report? And it was just like, um, that that's it. Sorry, like not enough. And so even with social, if I don't have anything to report, like I go quiet. I just go dark. It's like I'm not worth
Oh.
anything if I don't have anything to report. No, that's the yeah,
Okay. Okay. We've
yeah.
discovered something. Okay. That was really
Hello.
tender.
Yeah.
I want to give
Yeah.
that some space, but
Okay. Okay.
you
No, I
are worth
know.
that.
I know.
I know
I know.
but I'm just saying this in front of
And
the
then the
people.
other thing, because yeah, I see a therapist here, and I saw a therapist when I was in the Meisner program, which everybody goes to therapy in Meisner. So I've had about two or three, and I think one of the reasons I'm single is there was okay, my dad was Harvard Law, military, only child. His dad wasn't really around. His mom was raped by her German father-in-law in Wisconsin when she didn't even speak English. She ran away to Chicago, married a doctor because she was a gold digger, had my father, and then had a second child she said she aborted because she didn't want to bring another child into the world if it was going to be like my dad. Like my dad had like no role model of like nourishing love or affection or anything like that.
Wow.
My dad and I had like no bond
Yeah.
really. And my mom she also didn't have like any healthy role models. And so my mom was just incredibly polite. So she'd send me a letter in college and she'd sign it, fondly, mother. Like fondly? Like that's all you got?
Yeah.
Actually, she would sign her name. Her nickname was Marty, so she'd say fondly Marty, or Mowdy was her real nickname. And it was just
Wow.
like, okay. And so when you grow up as a, for me, growing up with it was like, hey, look, if you get a B average, you'll get a car when you turn 16, some kind of an old Volkswagen or something. If you do this, you get that. If you do this,
Hmm.
you get that.
Sure.
So there was all of this performance um kind of conditional love performance thing. So if you don't get any unsolicited hugs and you don't get any unsolicited
Yeah.
I love you and you're amazing and da da da, then the secret messages is that you're kind of unlovable, right?
Hmm.
Because
Yeah,
like
for sure.
and so that was sort of my secret message was like, okay, and I'm dancing my cheeks off. I was like the cutest kid, the funniest kid. I could run the fastest. I was a perfect speller, like I jumped every hoop there was, and like they still didn't really
And it
have
wasn't
time.
enough. Yeah.
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And so I think for me, affirmation is I find that girl who I'm not enough to. And then that
Mm. Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
so and so
Yep.
and so that reinforces
Yep.
my worldview. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so like there's like 20 girls I wanted to marry, but conveniently none of them wanted me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I just had another epiphany. What was it? Not too long ago. Oh, okay. So then here's the now we're getting really deep here, folks.
That's what we're here for.
So I have two modes of protection and they're fail safe.
Mm.
Okay. You will never get past these two modes of protection. All
Mm-hmm.
right. I can be super critical,
Critical.
and then I'm super sensitive.
Super sensitive. Okay.
So you
Critical.
say something
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sensitive with from my folks or whatever. Ooh, okay, now I'm shutting down. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have bad breath, and I don't know how to tell you because I don't have any conflict resolution. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gonna have to break up with you because I'm super critical. So I have no like there's no let me embrace this challenge. It's just like, okay, run, Forrest,
Which
run.
is so interesting to me because you say there's no
I know I sound
embracing
like I'm
cha-
12, right?
no, no, no,
I sound
no,
like
no, no. Hear me out. Hear me out. You say like you don't want to embrace that challenge, but the one thing that like brought you to becoming an actor was the fact that you weren't good at it and that it was a challenge. So I don't know. That just is really interesting to me. I have no like judgment on it either way. I just find that interesting that the thing
right,
that is challenging for you in this particular space. And I love sitting down with people in their own particular romance story, whether it's no romance, it is fresh romance, it is a ache or a longing. But what I find fascinating about you, DDM, because I don't get to talk to a lot of men. I talk to a ton of women, all ages, that are in this place of longing and ache and just feel they don't feel equipped
yeah,
to do
yeah,
relationship. They don't feel equipped. They're doing their work. We are big fans of therapy here. We're big fans of
right.
somatic coaching. We're all about that here. But what I don't get to hear, and I feel like sometimes the men are silenced in this because men are supposed to be way more macho, whatever. I don't know what culture is trying to say now, but actually I do know what they're trying to say. But like men, like you have a voice as well. You're having an ache and a journey with romance that is not panning out the way that you thought it would. You are
Correct.
doing your work. However, like how have you maintained, and you just came out of like a really hard breakup, it sounds like, within the last year.
And that
How,
was the first girl I dated in 20 years, practically.
yeah, in 20 years. And I think actually, DDM, there's a lot of people that are having this story. But again, I hear mostly from women and not from men. What do you want us to know? I don't know, as women, the journey of like a single man.
Okay, so I have a really funny sidebar story, but it's on point.
Okay.
Okay. So 2 hours outside of Cape Town, there's a little village called Stanford Village, like Stanford University.
Okay.
And they call it God's waiting room because there's a lot of old people out there.
Sweet.
And not much happens in Stanford Village. There's kind of like there's a dead end street that comes in and it's on a river. And when I when I moved to Africa, I lived in Nairobi and then I moved to Cape Town, but my American expat friends from Nairobi moved to Stanford. So I started going to Stanford and then I met more people there than Cape Town because Cape Town's super clicky. So I bought a house in Stanford. I got plugged into Stanford. So now uh, there's a group of old ladies called the Soggies, short for Soggy Bottoms, because we go swimming up in the reservoir. There's a reservoir up the hill, and so these girls go swimming. And so I was allowed to kind of be an honorary Soggy. So we would go swimming, and most of these gals are single and widows, and I'm on a pension. I was the king of commercials. Like I can buy everybody a coffee. It's not going to break the bank. But I got so much pushback. And so and it didn't matter. I didn't care. But this is like, and part of the culture in South Africa is like nobody can say thank you. It's really an awkward, especially
Mm,
Brits. British people have a really, really hard time just saying thank
mm,
you. Like it's sort of like, oh no, you mustn't. They shame you. No, I'll get this. No, you mustn't. No, let me pay for it. No, I'm paying for it. No, you mustn't. It's like,
mm,
and so I finally had to like sit down with all these old biddies and I go, look, gals, I go, I really appreciate being a part of this. I love swimming. I love being around all of you guys. And so when I buy you a coffee, I don't want to hear a bunch of chirping like, oh, you shouldn't, oh, you mustn't. Don't shame me for doing something because I appreciate you guys. This is all I want to hear. Thank you, David. You're amazing. I
Mm-hmm.
want to hear. That's all I want to hear.
Yeah.
And it's, there's a gal who's a wannabe actress, and she looked me up, and we've been kind of hanging out. She's an American, and we just went out for dinner, and she's like, reaching for her billfold and stuff. I'm going, Vanessa, look, I go,
Vanessa.
I'm old school. Like, you're
Yeah.
not, like, I got this.
Amen. Amen.
And then she's like, I go, look, all you gotta say is thank you, David. You're amazing. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
we love that.
And so it sounds funny. It is funny,
Mm.
but man, like even my fiance, we would drive up PCH, and we would go to that sushi place at Topanga. There was like that one little kind of fish place there. Nothing fancy. It was old school back in the old Topanga days. And like my fiance could say I love you, but she couldn't say thank you. And so, and I don't know
Mm.
why it's a thing, but I don't think I'm alone.
No.
Like sometimes it's like, look, babe, it almost means more to me if you can just say thank you, you're amazing.
Hmm.
Now I feel appreciated and seen, and all by the world for you. But
Hmm.
if you want to go halvesies and you're making me feel ashamed for wanting to kit you out and style you out, if you're going to fight over that,
Hmm.
like I have no role. I mean, I
Hmm.
think, I also do a lot of reading. It's like, what's the biggest malady of modern day man? We're useless.
Mm.
We sit around because, like, if we try something, no, I'll do that. Or if we want to go
Mhm.
build a shelf, no, we'll get. It's like most men are just like
Yeah.
we're
And
not.
we and that
We're
we need you as women, we need you men.
and see,
And
that's all we want to hear.
yeah,
All we
but
all we want to hear is like, we need you, thank you, you're
yes.
amazing, big kiss on the cheek,
Yeah.
attaboy. Just give me an attaboy. Like
Appreciated
it's
and
pretty
seen.
simple, yeah.
Appreciated and seen. And so I think that
Appreciated and seen. And you
uh-huh.
know what? And sometimes, gosh, if you like want to put a little splash of perfume just because you appreciate me, like, oh gosh, thank you, babe. Like, that's awesome. You want to wear a dress? Oh wow, this is
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm.
And it's just like, I just want to feel appreciated.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
think, I think to be fair, which usually means to be unfair, but to be
Mm.
fair,
Hmm.
I think your generation has been sold kind of this bill of goods about, well, feminism, and
Mm.
you like having that place in the workplace, or that you're gonna pay your way or your have. It's just like, no, it's just not that
Oh,
complicated.
the word on the street, DDM. I don't know if you've heard of the phrase the soft life, but the girls are becoming hip to the soft life, and I'll let you discover that more and
No, no, no.
more.
I'm sure.
You
I know.
know,
I'm sure.
you
Yeah,
know.
of course.
And
Yeah.
so I think the
And they're getting shamed for it.
some are, but some don't really care. But I think this is why I love having these conversations, like in the spaces that I'm in, because it's not about bashing females, it's not about bashing males, but really, number one, I wanted to hear some of your story, but also, like, you have been navigating a very full life. We didn't even get into, like, how you got to South Africa. We have probably about 5 minutes left in the main conversation. I'm going to pull you
Okay.
for a sidebar that I do for a private community for women. And we're gonna kind of go more into depth about you living in South Africa, which I think is really fascinating. Um, but maybe can you share some last thoughts on still living a full life at 70 as a single man that has never been married, has no kids, loves God, is a man of faith? What does a full life mean for you? And you,
I'll tell you, it's there's this new thing in Cape Town that's the rage, and maybe it's all over the world. It's called candlelight concerts. And so you go to a venue, and there's like 1,000 candles on the stage that are lit, and there's like a violinist and a cello, and they're playing Coldplay by candlelight for an hour, and it's just like, next level So
Mm.
I've so there was a Hans Zimmer concert, there was a Coldplay concert, there was another concert. They specialize in all of these things. I've bought 4 tickets and I've gone zero because it's so beautiful. I just don't want to drive an hour to go to this place and sit there and like pine away that I'm not with somebody that I'm bonkers over and can hold their hand and share this moment. So it's really, sharing. Remember that Sean Penn movie, Into the Wild, where the guy goes to Alaska and he dies in the back of the bus, and
Yeah,
his
thanks for
last jour-
that.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
his last journal entry is life is meant to be shared.
Yeah.
And so, uh, I don't have an answer. Oh, here, let me just do a quick sidebar.
Mm.
So I'm trying to fix the end of Hemingway so it has some kingdom redemptive value. And then I
Sure.
come up with that line, but it's the believers who have hope. And it turns out that's an essential ingredient in life.
Mm.
But hope in what? And where's my hope? What does hope look like?
Mm.
Where is my hope?
Mm-hmm.
And what is my hope? Is it just eternal life? Okay, great. I got it. Let's tick the box.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, God? I
Mm-hmm.
call it an RTD, ready to die day. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, God, I'm ready to die. Really, I'm very happy. I've had a great life and I'm ready to do, I just want to be with you. Like, I just want to go hang out up there.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, that's not healthy. It may be how I generally feel some days, but um, life is meant to be shared, and we're wired that way. I mean, that's one thing. Like I will say, the thing about my relationship with this girl last year, it had just been so long since I had been with somebody that I was really, really made me feel special, and I was just like, God, this is so magic. It's like I just want to be her man. And she was a bit of a closed book and hadn't really wasn't over her last guy. So I wasn't her man. I felt like she was my woman, but she wasn't really available. But we were close enough and affectionate enough to go, wow, like this is just hand in glove. Like man and woman, it's just the most beautiful thing, in the world. And like, you know what? It's like if here's my problem. I don't want to hang out with a guy all day. What? I mean, I have friends, but it's like I'm not gonna like call, hey, let's go get a beer. It's like, okay, but it's not like a date. Like I know I want to be with a woman. I don't want to. I'd rather be alone than not be. I mean, I have friends. I have guy friends. It's mostly married couples, but it's like I'm not wired to hang out with another man all day or all weekend. Like it's just like I want to be with opposite sex. Like I want to be with. And so you watch all these YouTubers and they're sailing around the world and they're building houses in upstate New York and they're living off grid and they're all partners and they're all doing it together and they're completely self-sustained and fulfilled because that's how we were designed. You know what I mean? So 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 getting back to like, okay, so then what's my hope? Well, I just hope that I'm in God's will, that I haven't screwed something up, that I'm not, living disobediently or anything. And the way I got here, which is like we should do like a part 2 podcast, because like my Africa stories, even how I went to Nairobi is crazy. The whole journey over here is crazy. But um it's just like, okay, Lord, my hope's in you, and I can't
Mm-hmm.
wait to see you. I can't wait to be with you. I really believe I'm supposed to be in Cape Town. You did so many things to get me here. Let me just give you one tiny, tiny quick story about how I
One
got here.
tiny. One tiny.
Okay, one tiny. So I'm flying down here from Kenya, and I'm doing a recce to see if Cape Town's the right place. The first day we're here, we're driving around. We end up at the waterfront. There's a mall, and there's this. We stop in front of this restaurant, and I'm praying for a sign. God, just give me a sign. We stop at this restaurant. I look up, and here, like 20-foot sign it says Hildebrands, and it looked like kind of like a Cape Cod fish place. Heidi Hildebrand is my dead sister who was the missionary in Germany, and now
Wow.
her last name is Hildebrand. And here's Hildebrand's. The next day, we go in the opposite direction an hour. We go to this wine farm in Franschhoek at the top of the hill, and I get out of the car, and here's a big 20-foot sign. It says Dudonay. That's my first name. D. David is Dudonay. So like I'm praying for a sign. God's giving me signage. That's
Mm-hmm.
day two. While we're at Dudonay's, I hear, "Hey, D. David." And I turn around and it's Alicia Lee from Malibu Vineyard, who was a black gal that was kind of like, in the arts and creative. And she married a guy from Holland and she's doing amazing stuff in Africa. She was down here on her honeymoon. And on the plane ride down, Patrice, on the plane ride down, and I don't hear from God, but I hear from the Holy Spirit, okay, listen, on this trip, you're going to run into somebody that you know, and they're going to
Amen.
see you first. They're going to see
Amen.
you first. I go, no, I always see everybody first.
Mm.
And I go, look, I've been to 62 countries. I never run into anybody I know. And on that trip, day two, I run into
Amen.
somebody I know and they see me first. So
Listen.
it's just like, so I believe I'm supposed to be here. Like I have no question that God, I'm supposed to
Amen.
be here. And I've been here 12 years and I've impacted a lot of people and it is whatever it is. You know what I mean? I don't know why I'm here exactly, but I just know that I just have to believe that like God isn't done with me yet, you know?
Hmm.
Like the
Hmm.
film's not out of the camera. Like
Yeah, that's
just,
good.
you're not in every scene in every movie, like,
That's right. That's
and
right.
so it's okay. That's
I
okay.
love that. The one word that stood out as you shared a little bit, and we're going to go more into that in the sidebar conversation, but
Okay.
I liked that you didn't necessarily have a tied in a ribbon and a bow sort of answer about living a full life as a single man at 70 years old who has a longing to be in relationship with a woman. And that longing is very valid and it's very real. And I think that is like that's what somebody needs to hear. That's what I need to hear. Like staying in that being in that place of longing is normal, natural. It's authentic to where you are right now. I feel like somebody who's listening to this or watching this also feels heard and seen, something that you've expressed throughout your storytelling of some of the highlights or some of the journey of your life of this desire to be seen and known. And what really got me as you shared this last story of the Lord telling you on this flight that someone's going to see you before
Yes.
them. So we're not going to get into all that, but that's just the kindness and sweetness of the Lord. He's like, yeah, I know you don't understand it all. Okay, full disclaimer, I just rediscovered Stephen Curtis Chapman. I was not a fan of his music. Stephen Curtis Chapman, big CCM, contemporary Christian artist of the 90s, huge. For some reason, I was just not into his voice or whatever. I've rediscovered a lot of 90s worship music. There's just something on it right now in this season. But he's got a song from that era that is called God is God. And basically, the
Mm.
lyrics is like, God is God and I am not. God is God and I am man. And there is just something about that mantra, that chorus, that hook. I'm probably going to send it to you via email so you can listen to it.
Okay, cool.
Um, that is just like there's so much God that I know I am where I'm supposed to be, but there's so much that's not making sense.
Yeah.
And so much that is above my pay grade. However, God, you are God and I'm not. I don't have the answer right now, but I'm still going to believe. I love how you said this, but I'm still choosing to believe like these are my words, but like your loving kindness that you see me
Yeah.
in this. So,
Yeah.
DDM, I just want to thank you for sharing a little bit about your story. We're going to close out the main conversation. Is there anything that you want to leave as an encouragement to the people that are in longing, just like you, whether they are 75, whether they are 19 and they feel like they're 75, waiting, for their spouse? What might be something, if there's anything, doesn't have to be for someone who's in longing right now, because a ton of us are.
Okay. I don't know if you can see this, but behind me, it looks like I've got the biggest fish tank in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's my Samsung 70-inch TV with fish tank on YouTube. And so, and so So I just found it today. I was like, well, you know what? I need something behind me that's interesting as a backdrop. I know you can't really see it during the
But
thing,
it can, but it's
but
great.
anyways,
Yeah.
so I'm watching, I'm just like, watching these fish. And I was like, oh, look at that one. Oh, wow. Look at that one. Look at that one.
Mm,
And they're all like wonderfully uniquely made. And they all have their own little personality and they're like brightly different colors. And some have
mm,
ears here and ears here and
yeah.
weird. I mean, they're all completely uniquely differently made. And that's us.
Mm,
We're all a bunch of little fish, beautifully made, and we're all swimming around this tank. And you know what? God, he does, he made us, he sees us, he promises he has plans for us.
mm,
And one of the books I wrote at Malibu Vineyard was God is not a smart planner, trusting in the divine plan, because I have all of my smart plans that I think he should be doing for me to have the life
mm,
that is a successful Christian romantic leading man life or whatever it is. And God's not a smart planner. He's divine. His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So we can't understand like what he's doing.
mhm.
So like just put your smart plans in a drawer and like just let him be God. Like just let him, you know, now I need to say, thank you, God, you're amazing. Instead of like, well,
Mm,
stop chirping away and just appreciate his master plan and
mm,
just let, Jesus take the wheel and like mean it. Stop grabbing it.
mm. I like it. All
And
right,
that's a
Didi.
word myself too. It's not like I'm above,
Mm,
I'm not, I'm scrapping like everybody else.
mhm.
So, but gosh, it's great to see you. What a joy.
Uh,
What a super joy.
ah!
And I have to say, I was so flattered. This is my first podcast, and like I'm so honored and flattered. I'm like going, oh wow, I'm going to be on a podcast.
How is this your first podcast? Okay, everyone, we're gonna see you if you're in my Patreon space. I'm gonna see you on the sidebar conversation.
Okay.
Show DDM some love. Find him. I don't know where you are on the socials. I'm gonna leave all that in the show links, including whatever he allows me to share with y'all, whether it's his book, whether it is the Hemingway.
You know what? If you just go to papahemshow.com,
Yes,
that's my
perfect,
that's my latest website,
perfect,
papahemshow.com. You can reach me there. You can,
good.
yeah, that's it.
Okay,
And
perfect.
I'm on Facebook, which I never check. You can find me on
Yeah,
Facebook.
don't try to find him on Facebook. Just find him
Okay.
on that website.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
again, if you're in South Africa, because we do have some South African friends that listen to the
Mm,
podcast. So yeah,
awesome.
maybe I don't know, see if you can I was gonna say stalk him, but that's so I don't want to say that. But like find him or I don't know,
Yeah, no, reach
encourage
out, reach
him.
out.
Yeah,
We'll do a coffee. Reach out. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
in the CBD. I'm in the in the city bowl. So
He's very personable, as you could tell right now from this conversation. So thanks, DDM. We'll see you next time, hopefully
okay.
on the podcast.
Cheers.
I'm so curious. What are you remembering the most from DDM's story, from his journey, from his life? What resonated for you? For me, it is still this idea of longing and hope and finding a way to still pursue life in the midst of that. I think it's so beautiful, especially when you are creative, when you are a go getter. Sometimes it is so hard to just get up and then put one foot in front of the other, especially if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling like, I just don't want to do this anymore. And yet there is grace for us. And what do I mean by that? I mean, even sitting, and especially these last, 10 minutes of this conversation, holding space, acknowledging this is how I feel. There's not a cute bow around it. And there's a way in which God is actually loving me and showing up for me in this space. God, would you open my eyes to that now? And so that's my prayer for myself each day. Like, God, would you show me specifically how you are loving me as I hold the tension? Some days it's stronger than others, some days it's not. But as I hold the tension of longing and hope, and for you, it might be a relationship. Or for others, or for someone else, it might be a career, um, could be a place. But we all can experience that sense of like, I'm in a place of longing. I'm really wanting, my heart's desires for this thing. And yet, we're not without hope when we know God, when we allow God to really know us and just to show up honestly. And so I was really grateful for DDM showing up honestly with us in this conversation. I hope that it encourages you to show up honestly in your own conversations. There's a bonus sidebar conversation that I have with DDM, and he goes into more depth of his journey to South Africa. And we get to pray a little bit in that sidebar conversation. It's in my Patreon space, which is only for women. I'm so sorry, guys. But that space is for women. And it's a space of rest for you if you are a busy mom, a busy single woman, a busy ministry leader, Christian woman of faith. That space is just for you. Usually once or twice a week, I'm giving you fresh new content and conversations just to fill up your tank, not to overcrowd or overwhelm, but to fill up your tank. And so that conversation will be waiting for you if you are a paid member in my Patreon space, which is called Patrice's Bloom Faith Table. Oh, and yes, I forgot to ask my signature question at the end. What's on DDM's playlist? What is he listening to now? So I went back and I asked him, and he told me, and I put it in the link in the show notes of this episode. So if you want to know what he is listening to, just look at the show notes of this episode, and you can also see what I'm listening to in this season as well. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Ratings and all those things matter to get this conversation out to more people. So if this was meaningful, if you're listening to this on Spotify or on Apple, please review this. That helps me continue to create content that is meaningful for you. All right, until the next time, I will see you on the next conversation of Patrice's Playlist. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye for now.